Welcome everyone to the podcast. It's me, Zero, here with.
Decade.
Rye.
And VashieV.
Today we're talking about Kamen Rider Ex-Aid, episode 26. Last week we had a bit of a discussion about the Ministry of Health and why they didn't seem to be doing anything and why Brave and Snipe didn't just go to them when they found out what was going on. Well, this week we open up with the Ministry of Health declaring a recall and ban on Kamen Rider Chronicle. So there you go, Vashie. They're doing something.
About time we actually get to see them do it.
At CR Deputy Director General, fucking how many titles do you need? Kyotaro Hinata orders Emu and Hiro to remain on standby to prevent panic. They don't want too much information getting out there. Hiro accepts the order, but Emu doesn't like it. The patient from last episode, whose name we still don't have, was eavesdropping, and hearing that CR won't help him, takes back his copy of Kamen Rider Chronicle to defeat Salty himself, and Emu chases after him. The patient shows up to join another player rider fighting Salty. Emu pensions into Ex-Aid to try and stop him from fighting, so the patient turns on Ex-Aid instead. And then Poppy shows up to explain that Kamen Riders have to fight the player riders, not help them, and she needs to penalize Ex-Aid for breaking the rules. So she puts on her Buggle Driver and henshins with Toki Meki Crisis. Kamen Rider Poppy. Thoughts?
So one thing that I thought was interesting, how Parado reacted to the Ministry's ban. He pretty much anticipated that this was going to happen, and it's just kind of interesting contrasting it with how the Greed had to kind of like use smartphones and stuff to understand how the world works and stuff, and Parado kind of just knows. That's kind of, especially like with how he stealth released the game and stuff, and now whatever he's got planning next so they don't lose players. It's pretty interesting how he knows all this stuff. And then the other thing, I think it's kind of funny that the casting likes using feisty short people, because that Tenma guy is shorter than Emu, and he's super feisty. Nico is short, she's super feisty. And then on the Sentai side, we got Kotaro, and he's super feisty. It's just kind of a funny pattern that's been going on.
I liked everything up to this. The only issue I had with, does nobody understand that quarantine is not just for the patient, but in an instance like this, somebody should have put the freaking gas shot away instead of just leaving it sit on the table. It was still on the table. Regardless of how much time went past, they figured out, hey, this is a bad thing. We should kind of put it away so it doesn't, just happen to get grabbed when somebody walks in. I liked seeing Poppy Henshin. That was nice, despite the fact that was spoiled all over Tumblr and Twitter.
The actual, her doing it, though, wasn't. At least we got to see that.
Yeah, her doing it, I liked the fact that it wasn't just, pretty much just like everybody else did it. Her Buggle Driver's different, and she has a very unique, henshin pose and little dance thingy that she does.
She, spins it around.
And I did like the fact that Parado's basically going, yeah, we kind of knew this was going to happen, so yeah, do what you want. We've got this covered. Because he literally just goes, yeah, we need to proceed with our plan.
Okay, since you guys pretty much said everything I was gonna say, I guess I'll just give my quick thoughts on Kamen Rider Poppy. That form is fucking amazing because it's probably the most fitting henshin form any of the writers or anybody has in this show. It's amazing. The song's great, the henshin's great, the freaking weapon's pretty awesome too, that mini chainsaw thing. Her finisher is great. It's perfect. Whoever designed that, A+.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see the Bug Visor's chainsaw thing back in action. And I'm kind of curious as to what level she is. That's another thing that wasn't really explained. And lastly, I just hope they play the full jingle more than once, because Bong Bong Simulations has a pretty fun jingle, but they just cut off the end every single time, and it's kind of disappointing.
And in case you forgot, Poppy's Gashat Tokimeki Crisis is a dating simulator game.
One other thing that I wanted to note is the infected person for the episode, for lack of a better term. I liked his plan until it basically became, let's just group up and hit it till it dies. That was his entire plan. We're going to group up and hit it till it dies.
At least he's smart enough not to fucking solo it, but yeah, you're right. Like, your plan is, okay, we're gonna attack more than once. I'm like, alright, it's a good start. Then your plan is, fuck it, let's just rush it. I'm like, that's dumb. But then again, like, he's super sick at this point. So I'm like, alright, he's probably not thinking straight.
And I understand that there wasn't a lot of rules given to the viewers, but there's obviously a level system. Did they not figure a way to grind?
Yeah, there's that, and then, well, the thing is, Salty is the weakest one. And the other thing is, he's like, I'm good at games, and then you see, like, one guy getting his ass handed to him, and then he shows up in henshins. I'm like, there's power-ups all around you, bro. Like, not a single one of you fuckers used one power-up.
That was something I was sitting there waiting for them to figure out. It's like, oh, power-ups, it's like 2 feet behind you, dude. Just keep rolling. I know you got kicked in the teeth, but just keep rolling. Run into the power-up. It's a strength one. And you can see that.
And I'm not sure if they can even grind because they were told to steal the gadgets from the Kamen Riders to level up.
Yeah, which is like, okay, they understand the concept of loot because they're constantly going after the riders, but I'm like, come on, man. You don't understand the the concept of power-ups. Like, okay, you can say, well, modern gamers don't use that many power-ups, but like, this is clearly an MMO. Buffs exist. Like, come on, man. I mean, the one good thing, yeah.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at you calling it an MMO.
Well, it's basically what it is.
It is. It just never occurred to me.
Right. I mean, like, the one good thing is, like, at least they're like, yes, female gamers exist. I mean, you know, you have Nico running around, but she barely's done any gaming shit lately, so, At least when they're like, hey, we need a group of them, and, like, there's a couple female gamers, I'm like, yeah, finally. At least we're doing this smartly. Actually, they did it the first time too. Like, one of them who died was one. So, like, technically Poppy isn't the first female writer in this show. Like, that random level 1 Chronicle one is, but she's dead, so I guess Poppy counts.
Okay, so Poppy starts fighting Ex-Aid, who just kind of dodges for a bit before Snipe shows up to help him. Ex-Aid doesn't want to hurt Poppy, but Snipe only sees her as the enemy now. Unfortunately for them, Poppy just slaps them both around a bit before using her finisher to knock them out of their transformations, and then warns them not to help the player riders. Emu tries, talking to her, tries to get through to her, but she just leaves. Parado, who I guess was watching the whole time, explains that Poppy's data has effectively been rearranged. She was sent to help CR by Genom Corp to collect data, and now she's back to being a bugster. Pardo then goes on about how humans brought the threat of bugsters on themselves by treating them like game pieces. Parado's statement here about how, because he also says bugsters are creatures that are born in this world too. So he's trying to make it sound like an equality thing. I have a super big problem with the way he's making it sound, though. But I'm going to let you guys talk before I go on into that.
Oh, well, this is a bit unrelated to that. But I'm kind of curious as to whether or not they're going to make Parado's and Poppy's former hosts significant to the plot somehow. Because, I mean, pretty much confirmed that Poppy was born from somebody dying. And I'm curious as to why Dan infected those specific people to make Parado and Poppy. I mean, Graphite came from Saki, Hito's girlfriend, and it kind of makes me wonder if she was targeted on purpose or not, just to get at him. I don't know, but...
I doubt that because Hiro was still in med school at the time. 0 Day happened. I think it was just a random...
Yeah, right. So, I mean, that's why I won't be too upset if they don't really talk about their former host bodies.
For me, is I'm still curious about how that whole system worked, but the only thing that I had slight issue with was they didn't give Poppy an actual kick for her finisher. I get it, whole dating sim, hearts and all that, but I wanted to see her kick somebody.
I mean, even Peridot doesn't have a kick until he uses the power-ups. So I'm more okay with that because like they all kind of do their own thing unless they like power up. I mean like nah, even Graphite doesn't have one. He has like his boomerang thing, and then Peridot has like either the I'm gonna use power-ups for puzzle or I'm gonna just use flame punches for fighter. So right now it's consistent. As for like their human host, like I don't think. I mean, it'd be interesting if they show up, but I don't think they're gonna bring them up because like it's not Drive, where like that was an important part because they don't look like their human hosts, right? So like they'd have to cast another like couple actors, and who knows if the show's interested in doing that because it's got enough shit going on as it is. Um, Peridot's whole like equality thing. Yeah, technically it's true though because he's like, you humans just create games and then you make enemy characters just to relieve your stress and then like, you hate them for being the boss even though they were created just to be the boss. Uh, so it kind of reminds me of that a lot of things actually, but I remember like in like Cyborg 009, like by the end they had this like weird one shot. I don't think I saw like all of it, but it's like somehow they meet like Ishinomori, but like by the time the one I watched, Ishinomori was probably dead, so that's why they did this. Where it's like Gilmore just shows up and meets like quote unquote real life Ishinomori, even though they're both animated. And like the first thing like Ishinomori says is like I'm sorry. Because like yeah, that's the point. Like most creators would say that to their creations, like yeah, I'm sorry to put you through the shit, but like for the sake of the story, like bad guys need to exist, bad things need to happen. So like yeah, I can see Peridot's point of view. Like if you could look from an actual human being's point of view, it's like why did you make me the villain? Like why do I have to die? You know, but then again, like if you don't do that, then you don't have like a story. It's kind of complicated. Like if creations actually could come to life, it would get complicated, but that doesn't happen in real life, so most people don't have to worry about that shit.
Okay, let's go over everything we know about the Bugsters for a minute here. Back in the year 2000, a computer glitch causes the first Bugster to appear, to just be born, in a sense, in Dan's computer. How Dan handles this situation at first is not really made clear. And then later that year, he receives a fan letter from Emu, who included game ideas of his own, and Dan, becoming super jealous because of his superiority complex, decides to take the Bugster virus, put it in a beta copy of Mighty Action C, and send it back to Emu to infect him with it. So first off, what was his plan here? It's unclear, because nothing comes of this until, I want to say, 10 years later?
Dan says he was jealous of Emu, but then later on he's like, he was more pissed off that like, look at these pure ideas, how stupid you are, you simpleton, basically, so he just did it to fuck with them. It's more like, how dare you even try to compare yourself to me? And so I'm just gonna, like, do this to fuck with you, and basically all he's been doing is fucking with Emu's life ever since then.
Because he is CEO Crazy Pants.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. But my point is that doing that, his motivations were unclear because nothing comes of it until 10 years later, when Emu just randomly starts showing signs of the Bugster virus in him after winning that tournament against Nico, where he then has a surgeon do the operation on Emu to get a sample of the Bugster virus from him. Was he just intentionally using Emu as a host or something? It's unclear.
I mean, he does say that because he's like, I'm gonna see, like, at first I think he was just gonna fuck with him, but then like Emu absorbed it into himself, and then he's like, alright, I wanna see where this goes, and then wait till like the Bugster is mature, and then when he saw him at the tournament, he's like, okay, it's ready. Then he did the operation. So like, I don't know, maybe he had like half an idea of where to go for it.
1 year later, Zero Day occurs. bugsters everywhere. People start disappearing, and Genom Corp works with the Ministry of Health to develop the Kamen Rider system to fight against them, which I guess is all just part of the beginning of his plan to create Kamen Rider Chronicle, the ultimate survival game. The Ministry of Health gets the whole situation swept under the rug, and then 5 years later, he starts up again with releasing the bugsters to collect his players for the game. Not just the Kamen Riders, but also the bugsters. So at this point, the bugsters are now. We don't know about Zero Day, what kind of forms that they took on, but we know that this time around, they are specifically taking on forms of boss characters from Dan's games. Whether that was by design or not is a little unclear because of Bergamon, but the implication might be that they were. So at what point is... At this point, yeah, the humans are fighting against the bugsters because the bugsters are literally threatening their lives. What exactly is Parado being mad about?
Well, I think he's just mad that it's like, you hate us, but you created us to be this thing, and now you just want to murder us to sweep this problem under the rug, and it's like, that's not cool, bro.
He's blaming all of humanity for what Dan did.
I'm pretty sure when you're a subspecies, it's a lot easier to blame the rest of the dominant species than like, oh yeah, this one guy was an asshole, but the rest of humanity, you're cool. Like, I don't think he cares that much. And the other thing is he's probably lying. I think he's just saying that to get the rest of the bugsters to help him. I think his like final plan is just to get himself to evolve. Because he says like, bugsters get stronger when they get defeated, right? And all he's been doing is like getting the riders stronger and stronger so they can take him out.
Maybe because if he's really this mad about the way the bugsters are treated, and going off of the idea that he was created on Zero Day, why didn't he just kill Dan way back then?
No, because he wanted Kamen Rider Chronicle.
So what he's saying right now is that he wants Kamen Rider Chronicle to happen to get revenge on humanity for the way the bugsters were treated. But if he had stopped Dan back then, the bugsters wouldn't have been so mistreated.
Technically, you don't know if he could have taken out Dan, because like you don't know how much control Dan had over him. Right? Like starting out. And the thing is like, we know most of the deal with like most of the standard bugsters and shit, but like the new CEO guy, we don't know. A little bit of Poppy's backstory, but like Peridot, we know like nothing about. So I can't tell what his deal is. Because like, maybe he's like Heart from fucking Drive, where it's like, from the day he was treated like shit. Or maybe he's just playing everyone and he has his own thing, or maybe it's like a weird mix, or maybe the story is like, it's complicated enough. We don't need like a million level backstory for everyone. Who knows? Until we get something more concrete, it's kind of hard to tell where Peridot's coming from. But as for like hating humanity, I'm like, it's just the X-Men thing, except in reverse. It's like, why do the humans hate the mutants? It's like, well, fuck, they're mutants, right? Like, basically, it's the same thing. It's like, he's basically Magneto, right? Or at least Magneto has a better backstory, but like, he's doing the same thing of like, bugsters should be the dominant species, like, fuck the humans, So, I guess that's his reasoning, is like, yeah, I want Kamen Rider Chronicle to be completed so more people play this game and humanity dooms itself. And then I could just kill humans left, right, and center. But the other thing is, bugsters can only kill the humans that they infect. With Kamen Rider Chronicle, like, as soon as they henshin, they're already infected.
They can kill other humans, they're just specifically able to kill the ones that they infect.
Yeah, but maybe Dan put some kind of failsafe, and that's why they had to, like, constantly work around it. Plus, like, maybe he wanted to create more bugsters, because like before Ex-Aid, how many were there? There was Graphite, Poppy, and him. There were like 3, or maybe the new CEO guy. Maybe
I'm
4.
I'm pretty sure the new CEO is Bugster.
Yeah, I know, but like, is he a new bugster or was he created back then?
Good point.
Yeah, so like even let's say if we count that's four, there's at least another like six minimum that he made, you know, following Dan's plan. So maybe he wanted to free more Bugsters. I don't know, man.
I'm all down for Parado just being like genocidal. I'm all down for the idea of like a moral gray area where the Bugsters are just fighting for their own sense of justice about their mistreatment. But I feel like that statement was made too soon because we don't have enough information to say, yeah, he's correct. We don't have enough information for this to seem like he's actually justified. At least I don't feel like we do.
Yeah, fair enough. It's also one of those weird things. It's like, well, you can say, oh, poor Peridot for being treated badly. I'm like, all right, fair enough. But the thing is, what are you gonna do about it? Right now, the only solution is to fucking murder his ass. And we're not even sure if that's gonna work because, like, as long as his data survives, he can come back. Right? So, it's one of those, like, yeah, we don't have enough info. His character, like, there's literally no backstory. Like, that's the problem. Until we get something on him, like, I can't fully tell which way the story's supposed to go. Like, I can throw, like, okay, as generally, they're saying, like, yeah, we were created for this, you know, and then you want to wipe us out. Like, that's not cool, bro. We're gonna fight back. So, like, automatically they're the underdogs, but, like, who knows, man. I think it's still a bit too early to tell. Maybe that's what this whole arc is to figure out what Peridot's deal is.
Alright, we were kind of talking for a while. Decade, Vashie, anything you have to say?
No, you guys pretty much covered it for me.
Yeah, the one thing that I do think that Parado actually cares about the other Bugsters because when Dan killed what's the
Bergamon.
the Boxel bike one, Motors. Yeah. He got kind of pissed off because that was pretty senseless. And then in this episode, he kind of tries to give Salty and Alambra the spotlight, even though that fails. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm not saying like he doesn't care about them at all. It's just like he might have other plans than just being like, hey, let's all be friends.
Yeah, he's not Graphite.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say he's not Heart, from Drive, where it's like, hey, dudes, let's just hang out and fuck humanity, basically. Like, those guys are assholes. I think there might be, like, yeah, he cares about the Bugsters, but there might be another step on his, in his plan.
Alright, finally moving on with the episode. The patient makes a post online calling Kamen Rider Chronicle players to get together as a team to beat the Bugsters. And then we get a short scene of Graphite revealing that he's still alive to Taiga to gloat, I guess, because he didn't give any information. He just kind of suggested that there was information. Back at CR, Hiro tries convincing Emu to stop getting involved, like Kyoto told them, especially since the Rider players see them as the enemy now and will attack them. Emu says that even if he can't gain their trust, he still wants to save them, and he leaves to head out to the Rider player meetup. And then the CR director comes in, and holy shit, the CR director is a character on this show. I forgot about him. He talks to Hiro for a bit about Emu leaving, and then Hiro has realized that was thinking about what Emu said and decides to leave as well. Meanwhile, Kyotaro is hosting a press conference to try and convince people to go along with the recall and ban, but he doesn't want to explain the whole dangers of it because he doesn't want to cause panic, but the paparazzi are really trying to pressure him. Anything about all this?
I mean, even though the director's been put in the recycle bin, he still had a pretty decent moment there because he was basically saying, oh, all that matters is that you obey the health ministry because they are the ones in charge of your license. And that kind of pushes Hiro over the edge. And then the director just smiles when Hiro leaves. So I thought that was a nice father son moment, as short as it was.
With in the patient going out and doing for the second time, let's group up and hit it till it dies. Obviously, they did not learn the first time that, this isn't how this works. With the interaction with Hiro and Emu, in this episode especially, shows the biggest character growth for Hiro. Because part of this, yes, he started to care more about his patients, but it was still, as he was taught what it was to be a doctor. Licenses and orders is why he has such an issue with Taiga. It's because Taiga's unlicensed and, for, I guess, uncertified as well. So for Emu to give his speech, run off, and then the director come in out of, the recycling bin and kind of feed Hiro to the direction that he should go in, which is, I'm going to do what I need to do as a person, as a moral human, of what I think is the right thing to do as a doctor, which in this case was to go disobey orders, to hell with the CR. I need to save as many people as I can. There was a lot of growth in that, and his actor portrayed like that inner turmoil in that scene perfectly. And then, it was nice to see that little like cocky smile nod, like, yeah, I did that from the director after Hiro left.
Yeah, I agree. That was a pretty good scene. I mean, then again, like, the director is running a hospital, so we can kind of excuse, like, where the fuck has he been? Like, he has a job, bro. But yeah, I kind of wish we'd seen more of this, but like, hopefully going forward we will, because he's basically doing what I wanted. The later parts of Drive, they're like commanding officer sort of does this thing too. Like, he starts off as like a comedic character, but it's like as the show goes on, he gets more and more serious and like pushes the heroes in like the right direction. Hopefully, like, the director kind of becomes like that, so that'd be cool. But yeah, otherwise a decent scene. As for the patient, like, okay, man, do we just have to lock them in their rooms or something at this point? But for him just running off, like, I can sort of, okay, maybe if it was acted differently, directed differently, like, you could have played it as like, okay, the CR director or doctors aren't going to do anything, so I'm pretty much sentenced to death now. He could have been like acting out of desperation. I don't think he is, or that's not how you're supposed to take it, but you could have played it as like his actions are just of someone really desperate, so it's kind of just like a long shot anyway. They could have done that, but they didn't.
Yeah, Vashie, what you said about the emotion of that scene and the character growth, yeah, that's a really good way to explain it. So the Rider players meet up to take on the Bugsters, Salty and Arambura. And even Paradox shows up to join in the fray and help, defeat the Rider players. Then Emu shows up, and the patient questions why he came, saying that he can't save everyone. But Emu responds by saying that he wants to save as many people as he can. Kyotaro, in the middle of the conference, is told that Emu and Hiro went to go and fight anyways, and with the paparazzi trying to get the answers of him, he decides to tell the truth about the dangers of Kamen Rider Chronicle and the Bugster virus, saying how the Kamen Riders are trained specialists and that they should just put their faith in them to do their job. Hiro and Taiga show up to join in on Emu's heroic speech, and they all henshin. Ex-Aid, Brave, and Snipe. And we get one of the best fight sequences this show has had so far. Ex-Aid uses his Mighty Maximum X to take on Paradox and shows that he can leave the robot suit to fight separately, and the suit can just move on its own.
Yeah, about the fight, that definitely was an interesting development with the suit being able to leave the suit as some like autonomous helper. And it shoots laser beams out of its eyes. And then another awesome trope thing that they did was, how they always have the Sentai or the Rider using their henshin to deflect beams or whatever, and this time the enemy was doing that. So Emma was blasting at Parado while he was changing into a knockout fighter. So that was pretty awesome. And yeah, all the sliding was awesome too.
This has been the best fight in Kamen Rider that I've seen in a very long time. It was nice to see that the maximum henshin was more than just a literal form. It is literally armor similar to that of Gaim's watermelon form. And for that, it was nice to see that was autonomous, and him jumping in and out of it was kind of fun to see. And just like Decade said, all of the sliding with, the knockbacks and all that, it was amazingly well done. And it was done in a way that, like I said, I don't think I've seen in Rider especially. I did notice something. I don't know if we touched it the last time that the magic Bugster was there. Yeah, Arambara. Did you notice that when he casts his blast spell on them all, that it's the wizard's it's the symbol from Kamen Rider Wizard?
Yes, reusing CGI, I guess they're trying to save budget, but yeah, they've been using that for a while.
I didn't notice it until this episode. I'm like, wait a minute, I've seen that before. It's Wizard. Ha!
Yeah, they just took the wizard symbol from the center, but it's wizard spell basically. I guess I'll keep it short. Yeah, it's a really good fight, mostly because as Emu comes in and he starts giving the speech, and the emotion just builds and builds, and the other riders show up, and then we get this intense ass fight scene. I'm like, man, that was pretty great. It's a very old school way of doing it, but it works so well. And then just a little correction, right? Dude, the paparazzi and the press are different things. I know it's kind of hard to tell sometimes in the real world. They are, but those guys were journalists. You mean
I called them paparazzi.
Yeah, 3 times at least.
Well, in fairness, in that scene, they were all up in his face.
I know, but legitimate journalists.
My bad, I got the two confused. I thought they were the same thing.
I mean, in modern journalism, they might as well be, but in this episode, yeah, they were more the press. But otherwise, yeah, good. Man, this fight was really good. It's also kind of cool that, afterwards, they're okay, hand over your gas shots, and they're all we're not fucking doing that shit, because, that's how you would act. And then, the patient actually realizes, yeah, this is the smart thing to do, and then they all fall into line, because that's how human beings are. Nobody wants to be the first, but, once one person goes, most people just fall into line.
Yeah, this fight sequence had top-notch choreography. Salty and Arambara are defeated, and Ex-Aid knocks Paradox out of his henshin. The first time that we've actually seen it happen to him, he kind of glitches out a little bit. Emu confirms that all of the players that went to the meetup have been cured of Gain syndrome. The patient thanks Emu and says he'll make another post online telling everyone to trust the Kamen Riders, and that he was wrong for saying they couldn't trust them. They all then willingly give up their copies of Kamen Rider Chronicle. At Genom Corp, the Bugsters realize they're going to have to introduce some new features to keep their player base interested. Episode end.
Now, this is one thing that kind of confuses me is, okay, there's obviously more than, 6 players that were there or whatever. So does that mean there are multiple Salties and Alambaras? Because
it's unclear.
Yeah, it really is. But I guess we'll see. And I'm pretty sure that it kind of is like Kamen Rider Beast, because I think if you beat Salty or whatever, and then you henshin again, you get infected with the Bugster virus for the next level Bugster. But yeah, I guess these people are good for now.
That's what I'm thinking too, is because that was never explained of what happens now that they're gone with the ones that we're already fighting. I do kind of wish that they would stop one small trope that happened with this whole scene. And this happens not just in, Toku, but it happens across the board, even in American stuff, of when Emu's asking for the Gashats back. There's, 6 of them there, and there's that one guy in particular who kind of just, turns around in a huff, he's not going to do it. And then the one guy stands up, here, I'll give you mine, I'll put my trust in you, and then everybody just agrees with him, even the guy who's like, no, I'm not going to do that. that drives me nuts. I get it, but it drives me nuts.
Peer pressure is a thing, and most people cannot handle it. Like any like any amount of it. To be honest, it's fucking hilarious sometimes.
I get that. It's just I think it's overused.
Yeah, it is overused. But what happened is like 6 people and all 6 said no, and then one guy said yes, and then the next guy yes, yes, yes. Like 5 people say yes. So yeah, they'd probably give in.
It's easier to be an asshole if you're not the only one. But then if you're the one going against the grain, it can be like, well, I don't want to look like an asshole. I have 2 questions, though.
Sure.
So first off, this episode literally introduces the idea of if the Kamen Riders try to help the Rider players, then Poppy will show up to fight them and stop that shit. Where was she in this final fight sequence? Don't get me wrong, it was perfect without her, but continuity-wise, where was she? Did she see what was going on and be like, nope, I'm not getting involved in that?
When Peridot sent like, here, Poppy, go, handle them before, and then like when he showed up, I was like, there's 3 of us, don't worry about it. That's probably what he told them.
Yeah, probably because he was already there. Poppy was like, he's going to be the judge this time.
Yeah. You know what's weird? We didn't talk about like Graphite or him like messing with Snipe. Like when he shows up, holy shit, like Taiga is pissed and totally shocked too. And then Graphite's like, get on my level, bro, and he just leaves. I was like, what the fuck do you mean? Like you were not that strong, even when you leveled up. Like a level 5 Gashot kicked your ass, dude. Like I'm pretty sure Salty can throw down and mess you up.
My other question, so last episode, when the rules were being explained, Poppy said that Rider players needed to defeat the Bugsters and collect proof of the defeat to unlock the final boss. To me, that suggested that, like, there'd be some sort of remnant of the Bugsters when they were beaten to show, like, here's your little, like, trophy for beating this, here's your achievement. But we didn't really get anything like that. So I'm wondering if that was just something they forgot to include, or...
I think the achievement is being cured of the virus.
It's like it could be that, or the fact that the players were not the ones who defeated the monsters, but rather technically through the way this world is set up now, in terms of the Rider Chronicle game, the NPCs defeated the boss.
Ah. The rare characters did it.
Rather than the legitimate players of the game. I don't know if that's accurate with the way the story will progress or whatnot. It's like, but that's the most logical thing I can think of for why there was no proof of defeat in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that makes sense. My other thing is like they could just be lying because all the Rider players are such low level that like most of the Bugsters can just kick their ass. So it's like, hey, you can win, and here's what you do when you do. I mean, if you ever win, but like that's never gonna happen. So it's just probably a lie.
Yeah, another thing about the graphite scene with Taiga, I think the only real purpose for that was to motivate Taiga into getting involved in this plot, because I mean, really, he didn't have a whole lot of motivation before. He's like, oh, Genom Corporation's at it again, that's not good. Their stocks are going up, blah blah blah. But now he's really pissed and determined to get rid of graphite once and for all. So yeah, it was a decent scene.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about like how little Taiga was connected to this, but yeah, putting graphite back into the mix, definitely. Especially considering like the first time like Hero killed graphite, so like his like vengeance thing, he probably got out of his system. But like Taiga still has his drive to like just murder the shit out of graphite. I also love how like every time graphite shows up, he just like insults Taiga. He's like, "Oh, you're still alive, you crazy person." It's great, but like, man, without watching the actual like the Snipe special, it feels like you're kind of gonna miss something, because it feels like, okay, eventually we're gonna get a flashback, except we won't because it's only in the damn DVD specials.
All right. Any other final thoughts before we sign off?
I want more fight scenes like this
Agreed.
as this series goes. Because, like I said, this fight scene was one of the best ones I've seen in Rider at all, in my opinion. It was very well choreographed, very well filmed, lit at the whole 9 yards. This fight was perfect. Needs more to continue.
I think, I mean, like, it's a good sentiment to want a fight like this, but the thing is, like, the choreography was decent, but, like, I mean, when Ex-Aid kept jumping out of his suit, like, once was okay, but, like, later on, like, Peridot could kick your ass now, but whatever. The other thing is, like, I think it's more that, like, they tied in, like, the themes and the emotions and the great choreography, so, like, if you say like good choreography, like we see like 3 to 5 episodes with like just okay, here's a fight. It has it's a decent fight. Like it might be okay, but it might turn into the Garo problems. Like all right, that was a decent fight, but like unless you put some effort into putting like a real gut punch with the emotions and everything, like it was with this two-parter, or at least by the end of this episode, it won't feel as good. But I mean, then again, Garo sort of always, or all the good episodes of Garo do that, is like they put so much emotion into this fight of like, all right, this is the values of the Makai Knights and what they stand for, and that's why they're gonna win. So like, you're gonna have to put more heroic shit back into Kamen Rider instead of we're Ghostbusters except we use rider kicks now, which is what it's sort of turned into lately.
Gato's great. People watch it.
Um, yeah. Well, I was gonna say rider kicks, but they don't even rider kick anymore. It's more like sword slashes.
I was showing a friend of mine the Ex-Aid. I showed him the fight sequence in the very first episode, and seeing Ex-Aid's original rider kick blew my mind because we haven't seen that since, and he does a bunch of Sonic spin dash bullshit.
Oh, that's awesome. You know what? You know what was a really good one? Double X's first one. Holy shit, was so over the top.
When it was the double rider kick of
Yeah, when they fuse double and drives rider kicks together.
that was insane. But yeah, thinking back on it, because once it got brought up, it's like that rider kick was insane. Even his original one level, in the first episode. And then, it just kind of went away because they dumped in the forms and everything else. I want more rider kicks. It's why I was disappointed not seeing Poppy have a rider kick. Beyond the fact, I understand everybody has their own little finishing move with this series because all the forms are different. But come on, this is Poppy. Finally, the first canonically official first female rider. Give her a damn kick.
Ex-Aid.
Well, in Ex-Aid, but give her a damn kick.